Hi, my name's Megan, and I go by Woolen Cottonwoods on Instagram as well as here on YouTube. Woolen Cottonwood on Ravelry, which I don't keep very up to date. And welcome to my knitting podcast. This is the Hey Mom podcast, episode 8. And I'm so glad you have decided to join me today. So thank you very much. It is November 10th, 2013 today. Tomorrow's Remembrance Day if you're in Canada or the UK as well. Australia, New Zealand probably. I'm sure there's other places as well that also celebrate Remembrance Day on November the 11th. However, this is what we celebrate in Canada specifically, and I am wearing a poppy today in remembrance of all of those who gave their life to protect our freedoms of living in a state where we get to have a lot of freedom and a lot of space and a lot of choices in how we conduct ourselves. But that's not totally what I want to talk about today, but I did just want to fill you in a little bit on that and why I'm wearing a poppy today. So yes, welcome to my Hey Mom podcast. Here I talk to you all about what I am making, about what is going on in life, and this is also my cathartic journey in sharing things with my mom, who I would usually share extensively my knitting and my making and my creating and my life with, of course, but she did pass away in February of this year. So I started this podcast after wanting to do a podcast for many moons, and this is just another way of me being able to share these things with my mom, even though she's no longer here. So thank you for being here, and thank you for holding space for that. Everybody has been absolutely wonderful. And yeah, let's get into it. Today is, like I said, November the 10th. It is a Friday. I have the day off of work today because tomorrow is Remembrance Day, which is the stat holiday here in Canada, and we have today off in my school division that I teach in. However, the rest of Canada seems to have Monday off in lieu, which is very interesting. We only teach a half day on Fridays, so my theory is that this was to save money, because that way they get more bang for their buck. They get more work out of us for the money that they pay us if they give us the Friday off instead of the Monday off. But that is neither here nor there. My school district has the best of intentions, I am sure. I still get a day off, which I am very, very grateful for. It's just different than Jeffrey's day off, which is kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, kind of also nice. I love days where I can just sit in it, and I can also do that while Jeffrey is here. But it's just a nice excuse to spend a day taking care of myself and also living in remembrance as I do my best to within the month of November. So it's late, it's dark. I'm sitting right in front of a window. It is 4:26 p.m. We had daylight savings time last week, so I don't know. I think the sun is setting at 5. So we have about 34 minutes before the sun sets. So we'll see how this goes. I have the big light in this room turned off because if I turn it on, everything is yellow and gross. And I've got a little lamp on in the corner here. So hopefully we can kind of present colors true to form, but we will see what happens. So yeah, I was watching last podcast, I had mentioned Stitches Be Slippin', I'm pretty sure, and I couldn't remember her name. But then this morning, I was watching her podcast. She just put out another podcast yesterday, and her name is Melissa, and she's hilarious. I wrote a comment on her video one time saying, like, you're a little bit of crass and a lot of sass, and she's very fun and very left-wing and very open with how she feels about things, and I so appreciate it, especially being a teacher. That's not always I'm not open, unless you know me personally, and then I'm very open. But at school and here on YouTube and on Instagram, I tend to keep things a little bit quiet just because I don't want unnecessary drama, which I know isn't necessarily the right reason to not share things. But just being in this space, being on YouTube, I am putting myself out there, and it'd be very easy for a parent or a student to stumble across my, well, I don't know how many students are watching knitting videos. I teach elementary, K to 5. So I doubt they're watching knitting videos, but a parent could stumble across my stuff, and, I'm allowed to have my feelings. Teachers are allowed to be humans too, but my dad was a politician. And so I am very political. And Melissa, I am very much in your realm. However, I do just like to be more quiet about it. And that is no judgment on Melissa. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. We all just have different dynamic levels of different things in our lives, and that is acceptable. Anyways, that's a ramble. So I was watching her podcast, and I don't remember where I was going with that. Oh dear. I'm so terribly sorry. Last time, yeah, it's totally gone. Oh, no, I got it. She had said that she just likes to kind of get her ramble out of the way. She gets all of her life talk out of the way, and then she can finally start talking about the knitting. So if you do want to just listen to what's going on knitting-wise, anyways, I'm going to try that as well. So if you do want to know what is up knitting-wise, feel free to just go click down into the description box. I will put the timestamp at which I start talking about knitting down there. I'm not putting it on the screen because that requires editing, and that's an extra step, and I just kind of want to get these videos out because I just want to continue to be in community and in communication with you. I think there's a hairball under my desk. Got 2 beautiful kitties. There's a good chance you'll see at least one of them today. Clementine is very sassy, and Bonnie is a princess, and she is very fluffy and white. But with that fluff comes a lot of hairballs. So sorry about that. So life. The last time I came to you was Thanksgiving Monday. Thanksgiving Monday, and Jeffrey and I had just gotten back from Canmore, and we were in Canmore because later that week was my 30th birthday. So I'm gonna pick up there and just take you along in the last 5 weeks. So I had my birthday. It was wonderful, and it was also wonderfully challenging. My first birthday without my mom. And my mom always made it a really, really big priority to be here for my birthdays. I've been pretty open about it. I live in Lethbridge, Alberta, and I grew up in northern BC, which is about a 12-hour drive, or essentially a 12-hour day of flying because kind of arbitrary flights here and there. So mom always tried to be here, and she was here for almost every single birthday. And if she wasn't here on my birthday, she was here the week before, she was here the week after, and her parents lived here as well. So that was always a good opportunity for her to visit her parents, and, before the weather turned, and her sister and her brothers live in Calgary. So it was a good chance to visit everyone, but she was coming for my birthday. And, if her and I weren't able to see each other on my birthday, which happened for a few years. There was one year for my 25th birthday, I flew to Vancouver on my birthday to visit my best friend from university and her husband. And that was a riot. We had fun that night. But, so, even if my mom couldn't make it, she always made sure that I knew how special I was to her. My mom, I'm not sorry, but thank you for being okay with me laying it all out. My mom was never very secretive that I was her little princess, and that I was the little princess that she had always wanted. And so, yeah, my birthday was a big one. And I spent a lot of it crying. The night before, poor Jeffrey, comes out of the bathroom after shaving. And, he comes out of the bathroom after shaving, and I'm just bawling. And it's because I went back in my phone and I went ahead and went through all of my texts with my mom to see what she had texted me on my birthday the year before, so that I could kind of relive that. And I went through some of the pictures of Mom and I, and it was just really sweet. So yeah, I spent a lot of my day thinking about my mom, but I also spent a lot of it feeling very special. So I teach elementary music. So I teach a school of about 520-ish students, which is a lot of fun. And we had an assembly on my birthday, and I put together a musical piece. And I usually don't like scream it from the rooftops when it's my birthday at school, but it was my 30th, so I did, and I had so much fun. And the kids, I had a really wonderful colleague, and she led them through. She said, "Oh, and it's Madame's birthday, so we need to sing for her." And so the entire school sang for me, even though I hate the song Happy Birthday. There's a French version that is much more beautiful. But yeah, so we did that, and it was great, and it was easygoing. And then that night, Jeffrey and I went to his parents for dinner, and they cooked a special meal and had cake, and it was cozy and it was quiet. And, Jeffrey and I had already celebrated the weekend before, which I really liked that. Because then it felt like we weren't trying to squeeze something in the middle of the week. Because then I find if I'm trying to do that, it's just really tiring. It's really exhausting. So yeah, we had a good time and a challenging time, but that's okay. My brother, who I've been really close with since I was about 18, he's 6 years older than me. He sent me a text that was just really beautiful. And my sisters texted me too. And, my dad called me and all of that stuff, of course. But my brother's probably the family member that I'm the closest with. And both him and I are just so grateful through all of this to have each other. So, yeah, if you've got a sibling that you're really close with, make sure they know it, please. Make sure that they know how much you appreciate having them in your life. But not only that, if you're still lucky enough to have your parents around, give them a big squeeze. Anywho, hey, Mom. Sorry, everybody. No, I'm not sorry. Thank you for being okay with this. And if you're not, you can just fast forward. I don't care. I don't know any different. So, yeah. Birthdays. And it's always going to be a little bittersweet. And, there's a lot of things in life that are bittersweet now that would have just been sweet earlier, but that's life. And I don't want the bittersweet to go away. Because if the bittersweet if the bittersweet goes away, it means I don't necessarily miss Mom the same way. And I don't want that to go away. Yeah. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to miss people, right? I'm not living my life. That's what Mom really would have been pissed off about if I had just stopped living my life. Or, if I had tanked a lot of things in my life. She made it very clear that that was not what she wanted. So, yeah. So birthday, and then kind of on the same note as Mom, 2 weeks after my birthday, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks, 2 weeks, sure. Let's say 2 weeks. 2 weeks after my birthday, I got a tattoo, and it was the first tattoo that I've gotten in very, very long time, like in 10 years. And when you're 30, 10 years is a long time. So yeah, I got a tattoo. I've been planning this tattoo for a very long time. I've got 4 tattoos. I've got some basic script on my shoulder because it was 2013. That's what you did in 2013. I've got a treble clef on one of my legs because I'm a music major, and that's what you do when you're 17 and you're going to go to university for music. And on my other leg, I've got a really simple quote by Audrey Hepburn. It says, "Elegance is the only beauty that never fades." And around that tattoo, it's plain script, it's plain printing. I hate the text choice, or like the font choice. I think I should have done a handwriting or something like that. Anyways, I've always wanted florals because it felt very just like it's upper thigh, just like straight line quote. And it's always felt very out of place. And so I've always wanted florals to kind of tie that in a little bit more. But I was never able to really decide what. And for Mom's funeral, my grandpa was still alive at the time. He passed away just shy of 2 months after Mom did. So Grandpa, for her funeral, we specifically requested no flowers. And for Mom's funeral, Grandpa wanted to buy a bouquet of flowers. And so, and you know, he was a 93-year-old man, and so his budget was a little modest, but I went to a flower place in, you know, my hometown and talked to them about it and said, hey, here's the budget. This is why. They made a bouquet that should have cost a lot more, but it was stunning. And with the way that they styled the flowers, you can tell that they put a lot of care into it. And it was the most stunning bouquet I'd ever seen. And so I took a lot of really detailed pictures, and I got that tattooed on my thigh. And it's big. It goes from like my knee, and you know, like it kind of tapers up and then tapers down, but it goes from my knee up to my hips. So I'm sure I'll insert a picture at some point or put a picture on Instagram once it's done, but all of the lines are done. And I've got an appointment for the shading in December, which is really exciting. But yeah, that was a big deal this month. And then the rest of that week was very out of routine. We had parent-teacher interviews and PL. It was just weird. And so I felt really off over the weekend. And I ended up taking a sick day the following Monday because I was just really not in a good mind space. I hadn't been in that mind space since probably like May or June of last year, that just really negative mental health space. But I talked a lot with Jeffrey about it. I talked a lot with my best friends about it, and was kind of able to be like, no, like I was just out of routine. It was just a funk. You know, I've been going really hard all year and things have been going really well. It's been a great start to the school year. So I think that was just a part of it, which that was fine. But then, you know, the rest of the week was good after I took that mental health day. And you know, it was a sick day. It was a health day, a sick day. And so I recovered well from that, and kind of over the course of the next week was really mindful about my mental health and what I was doing for my mental health, but also my self-talk. And I'm feeling much better now. So that's good. And I'm glad it was just a little day here or there. And then, sorry, I'm on my creaky stool again. And then my students just did a Remembrance Day ceremony at school yesterday, which is a big deal for us in music class. I have 2 handbell groups. I've got a really good colleague who runs one of them, really good colleague and even better friend who runs one of them, and then I run the other one. And so they performed as well as my grade 5s performed, so that was lovely. Jeffrey and I a few weeks ago did a really big garage clean. We've got a bunch of my mom's stuff in the garage, and it kind of just got dumped, and we never really found stable places for it. So we went ahead and we did a bunch of cleaning up and sorted some stuff out. So my office is a little jumbled right now because there's a bunch of stuff that I need to sell, but that is okay. It can sit here. At least I know what's what. And then other big thing in my life is that I'm playing with the symphony, with the Lethbridge Symphony again. So I did my degree in music on bass clarinet, which is sitting in the case right there, as well as a little bit of B-flat clarinet. I should have done more B-flat clarinet upon retrospect to be a better musician, but I did, you know, I loved my programming on bass clarinet, and it's really where my heart lies. And so when the symphony needs a bass clarinet, which they don't always for certain programs, when they need me, they call me and I step in, and I'm really, really happy to play with them. I'm so glad that we do have a symphony in Lethbridge. And it's very, very fun. We really enjoy it. So that's been life lately. Let's talk about knitting. Look at what I'm wearing. I don't think I've worn it on the podcast. I wasn't actually wearing this today, but I was out running errands and I was coming home and gonna get ready to podcast. I was like, oh, I should wear my Smoky by Kate Davies, because I think last time I podcasted, it was still too hot and I just, didn't really want to. Maybe I have worn it on a podcast and I'm just lying to you right now. But let me get it. I'll show you. I've got a nice little French tuck right now. Because I French tuck it so much, the hem's a little wonky, but that's okay because I just French tuck it some more. So yeah. I really enjoy it. I love the length. I love the fit. I love the drop shoulder has a little bit of a taper in here, and it just works very, very nicely. And the stitch is just, it was a labor of love, and it was so worth it. And I love this yarn so much more in this not tight fitting garment. It feels so much less itchy. So if you have a garment that is just so incredibly itchy and you've knit it into something, like you've knit that yarn into something really tight, try a nice, easy breezy drop shoulder design. And that's something that I'm going to keep in mind because I have a sweater's quantity of Hedgehog Fibers Tweedy Noir. So it's the black base. Hi, honey. Hello. I'm podcasting. I love you. Jeffrey just got home from work. So, and I'm not going to edit. So don't be too loud, please. Thanks so much. So I've got a sweater's quantity of Tweedy Noir that I would like to knit into something. And it's just given me a little bit more affirmation as to what I'd like to knit it into. So that's good. That's my Smoky by Kate Davies. If you want to hear more about it, go ahead onto some of my other episodes. I think last episode, so episode 7, it was a finished object. So let's get into some finished objects for this episode. I've got many, many hats and some finished objects and lots of whips and some things that were whips that then got frogged. So a little bit of a frog pond situation, but that's okay. So the first finished object that I really have to show you is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit. This has not been blocked, so it's looking a little lumpy and a little bumpy right now, but I love this pattern. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. So like I said, this is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit, and I made the adult medium size. This is Frankie Gray Fibers DK in the colorway Black Cherry. So it's a nice dark purple. I'm sorry, the light's gonna get real terrible in here real fast. It is 4:46. I probably should have saved the live talk for the end of the episode. But whatever, we're gonna do our best. So, I've got this hat, and I'm really happy with the fit for it. So this is, I think I shared on the last episode, I am knitting some gift hats for a family that was really, really incredible, and continues to be really incredible to us as a family after Mom passed. So one of my brother's really good friends, she took days from her adult job. She's 40. She took days from her job to help us clean out Mom's house. And then after that, her mom and her are actually finishing some of Mom's unfinished quilts, especially because Mom wanted to do a grad quilt project for each grandchild, and she didn't get to finish that. And so we've got all of those, and I'm really, really thankful. And they are not the kind of family to accept compensation as thanks. And so instead I'm thanking them for their kindness and gratitude and craftiness with my own craftiness. And they live up in northern BC, so they need some warm hats. And the Oslo hat fits that bill. So I'm going to unroll the brim and show you something funky that I did, which is going to link into something from the frog pond. So the Oslo hat, there we go. You start here, you knit, you knit, good amount, and then you go ahead and you pick up your cast on stitch and knit it together with your live stitches. So that creates your double brim, and then you end up doing a special technique, a German shirt row essentially, to turn the work so that then you can have a triple thick brim. So that is how you get this triple thick brim. So I like the triple thickness of it. And then I like that it's still just single layer on the crown. I think that's a really nice touch, but it's nice and thick around your ears, which really, really helps to keep the wind and the cold out. And in addition, and for another reason that I'll share in a second, for additional warmth, because this Frankie Gray Fibers is superwash, and I'm using less and less superwash these days just because it doesn't, the superwashing process takes away a lot of the beauty of the wool in the structure and in the definition, but also in the waterproofness. So here I put in a little 2-inch panel of non-superwash DK. This is by Crux Fibers. This is her colorway ptarmigan. And I had it left over from another project. And so I just went ahead and knit 2 inches on what I knew was going to be the inside of the brim. So it can still be turned up. And, it's never not going to be turned up. And so, because if it weren't, it would look really terrible, not even just with that section, but also with like this. So it's always going to be turned up. So it's on the inside layer, which is going to help with keeping the wind out. It's going to help with waterproofness. And it's also going to provide additional warmth that you wouldn't get from the superwash. And then I just followed the pattern. I think I did the crown degreases incorrectly, but I don't care. They're consistent on the entire crown, and that's all I really care about. So, come on. Ba-doop. There we go. So yeah, that's my Oslo hat. Just random stitch markers. It's fine. Everything's fine. And the second reason that I put that little panel in of non-superwash BFL is because this was also an Oslo hat. And turns out you can't do an Oslo hat with 1 skein of DK yarn. Not a true adult size anyways. So I went ahead and so I made an Oslo hat, and I ran out of yarn before the decreases. So I just went back and started the decreases sooner, and that did not work. And so I was like, okay, like it'll just be an itty bitty beanie. But I'm like, this is for a 70 or 60-year-old man. Maybe he doesn't want an itty bitty beanie. Maybe he wants like a normal hat. So I will go through and I will reknit it, and that is okay. Because this is it is beautiful stockinette knitting with a few extra steps. So that was an Oslo hat. It was completely finished, and I frogged it and re-steamed the yarn because I don't like knitting with crimpy yarn. I think it makes it look bad even after you wet block it. So 1 Oslo hat down. 1 Oslo hat was knit, will be knit again soon. 3rd Oslo hat, because so I'm making a hat for this friend, this family friend, my brother's friend. So a hat for her. Her 2 parents were really helpful, and then I'm also making hats for her kids. So, well, I've got a few dropped stitches. Is that like YouTube podcaster bingo? I'm sure you've already got that box filled if you're playing YouTube podcaster bingo. Oh, I dropped some stitches. Or, oh, I'm in the middle of a row. So yeah. Black Cherry by Frankie Gray Fibers. Walnut by Frankie Gray Fibers. Oh my gosh, the lighting is going to be real bad. I'm so sorry. Let me do this. Is that going to make things worse? Probably. It's a very yellow light. I don't like white lights. No. Oh my gosh, this episode is a gong show. Here, maybe that'll help a little bit more. Got the light against the white wall to reflect. We'll see. Maybe I should just buy some lights. I hear they're not too expensive. So, black cherry, walnut, brick, which is a little bit more orange than I wanted. I wanted like a nice burgundy red, but that's okay. Like, that's the beauty of hand-dyed yarn. So you can see I did the cast on, I did the panel, I've knit the other side, I've knit it together, I've turned my work. So now I'm just knitting up the head and then crown decreases, and then this one's gonna be done. So I'm excited for that. Here, let me turn it inside out so you can get a really true reading on the color. No, there's gonna be no true readings on the color because I am podcasting too late at night. My apologies. Maybe I'll podcast again in less than 5 weeks away with some good natural light. But it is Canada in November. So we'll see. So yeah, Oslo hat number 3 is a whip, not an FO, but may as well talk about it while we're talking about it. And then another whip along the same lines is the hats for the kids. I really want these kids to be able to wear them for as long as they can. I think one kid is 5 and the other is like 7 or thereabouts. So I'm making the Bothy hat from Isolde Teague. And you can see here, I just did a cast on. This is the colorway Siren by Frankie Gray Fibers. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's going to be a lot of 2x2 ribbing. But I think it means it'll be very, very flexible for fit for them for a very long time. And I don't think I could have done this pattern in an adult size, but in a youth size, I'm definitely going to be able to get away with it. Oh, and for the Bothy hat, I'm using, I think it's a 3.25 millimeter. It's what it calls for in the pattern. So 3.25 millimeter for the Bothy hat. And I'll keep you posted as to how this goes. It calls for an alternating cable cast on. I didn't do that. I just did a twisted German cast on because I think it looks equally good and equally clean on both sides. So that's what I'm going to stick with. And then on the Oslo hat, I'm using 3.5, I think. Yeah, 3.5, because that's what the pattern calls for. So we just keep it simple. I've made many an Oslo hat at this point. I'm going to be interested to see how the Bothy hat turns out because I might want to make some for myself instead of making more Oslo hats. We'll see. So there's 2 whips. This is my crafty little fox, or that crafty fox, something like that. Foxglove project bag. I got this 2021 and I use it like crazy and I will continue to, and I would love to buy some more of her stuff, but she is in the States. So I need to, just Canada, United States exchange is not great right now. So we've got one FO, one frogged FO. I have one more FO for today. And these are some mittens for my darling Jeffrey. And he's already got them. So these are the Carlisle mittens. The design is by Jared Flood. And I am very, very happy with how these turned out. So this is the main side, and then this is the back side. And I did some modifications that I'll talk about in a second. But I have very tiny hands. And so knitting full-size mittens always drives me a little bonkers. And these fit him. They aren't too big. But yeah. That's okay. So yeah, they're sisters, not twins, especially in the decreases up here, but he's never going to notice. And they're warm. They're warm like crazy. Let me talk about the yarn before I go on and discuss the pattern. So I used 2 yarns, and they are both from Luddite Yarn. There we go. You can see her information at the bottom of the card there. You can find her on Instagram at Kayla the Luddite. And so they are both hill and down fingering, which is very like minimally processed wool. I think she gets it. Yes, it says here that it is woolen spun at custom woolen mills in Carstairs, Alberta. So how much fun is that? So the first yarn, the main yarn that I used in these, which is the black, technically speaking, it is a Welsh sheep that my Nana was Welsh. I would butcher the pronunciation, so I'm just not going to try. There you go. Let's go. Focus. And you can see that it's got really good yardage on there. It's a really fine fingering. And this one was just a little bit tricky to knit with. Sorry, it's attached to another project right now, just because it is quite fine, and it does, like, it can kind of pull apart. So I needed to be really, really careful on my cast on because it doesn't have very much strength. It's not unspun, but it's not highly spun, which is okay because it's a farm yarn. So this one in particular, and I love talking to her about it because she was really like, look at how dark this color is. Oh my gosh, the lighting. I just need to shut up, stop complaining about it because it's my own fault. But it's black, but it's not. It's actually a very dark brown, and she said it's the natural color of the sheep. And it's the darkest sheep you can get, was this Welsh breed of sheep. And so it is, oh, here it says 100% black Welsh mountain wool from Innisfil, Alberta, wool clip of 2021. I bought this at the Fiber Gathering Threads, something wool festival in Calgary earlier this year. It was in May. I had a lot of fun. It was really cool to go to. It was really good to talk to her, and I'm really happy that I picked that up. And then the other yarn is, she calls it her lilac yarn. Just different label, same label, different label. Super cute. You've seen this one because that's the one I showed you her Instagram handle on. And so she calls it her lilac yarn, and it is 100% Jacob wool from Kalmar and Pinoca. She even has the name of the shearer on this wool. So it was Wool Clip 2021, and it was sheared by Joshua Harper. And this one I really love because it's a beautiful, here, I'll show you in this. Beautiful light gray, and you can see here what I mean when I say that it's kind of unspun. Like, it's not tightly spun at all, but it's just so soft for, like, it's rustic. Don't get me wrong, it is rustic. You do not want to see what the blocking water looked like when I blocked these mittens. It was something else. But it was very, very fun to knit with. I really enjoyed it. It was really beautiful for color work. So let's get into the mittens. I cast on what it calls for in the cast on. This is a one size mitten, and I think most of the models were women. It called for, like, the schematic was like 7.5 inches around the hand, which Jeffrey's hands are larger than that. He's a swimmer, and he's got frickin' fins for, they're mitts. That's what he calls them. So I just did the normal cast on, and then I went ahead and I did, with the needle size called for down here, and then I went ahead and I did a Latvian braid. This was not called for in the pattern. And then I actually did one increase round and increased 8 stitches. So I took it from did I do 8 stitches or 12? I think I did 12. Yeah. Anyway, that's been my brain lately. So what it called for, because he's got skinny little wrists, and then increased a bunch of stitches, 12 stitches, I think, and kind of just added it onto the pattern. No, it was 8, because I did 2 extra on this side, 2 extra on this side, 2 extra on this side, and 2 extra on this side, just to kind of continue the pattern. And yeah, I just knit up. I love that these are a Selbo style mitten, but it has a thumb gusset. So it actually fits comfortably around the thumb. You don't have like the situation where your thumb is like here and it's like, ugh. I don't like the way that feels. I've made a pair of Selby mittens. I just don't like the way that feels. So I knit them on the needle size recommended. Did I? I think so. I know that the needle size recommended is 3.25. I either knit them on 3.25 or 3.5. I knit them on 3.25. Yes, can confirm. I need to take better notes. I'm so sorry. And then I knit the pair in about a week because Jeffrey has one pair of superwash mittens that I made him when we first started dating. And 2 years ago, and they are very well loved, and they are superwash DK plain knit mitten pattern, and they need some love, and he needed some non-superwash mittens because these are so much warmer. So I'm very happy with them. He loves them. He's really happy with the fit. We tried them on lots and lots just to, and I kind of just played it by ear. I think I did one extra like half chart in here, and actually you can see that in my decreases. So it's like the chart is like the upside down T, the right side up T, and then 2 cross rounds. And so the decreases are supposed to have 2 cross rounds. So I did an extra full repeat of the chart. And then I also did an extra cross round to make sure that I had enough in the decreases. But it worked out beautifully. I'm really happy with it. I would knit these again, and as a matter of fact, let me get into my whips. How was that for a segue? Gonna take a drink of water first. So, whip number 1 is something I haven't worked on for a little bit. And we'll get into why in a second. But I'm not making myself a pair of the Carlisle mitts. Instead, I'm making myself a pair of, they're called the Burnham mittens. And yeah, this is how far I have gotten. And so I'm doing them in a complementary way. So Jeffrey's main color was the black, my main color is going to be the gray, and then my accent color is going to be the black. I don't know whether this is the right side or the wrong side. I think this is the right side, and then this is the wrong side so far. I have tiny little hands, like child hands. So I did go ahead and I cast on less stitches, and then I increased up. I really need to write that down, otherwise I'm not going to remember when I go to do the second mitten. And this is how they're fitting so far. So I did it with the needle size called for on the cuff. And then did the Latvian braid. And I learned doing the Latvian braid in the same size as the ribbing works out really well. Like it's got enough stretch, but it doesn't look too sloppy. Actually on Jeffrey's mittens, you might not be able to tell. On one mitten I did it. See, I can't even tell. I think this is the bigger size needle and this is the smaller size needle. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. So smaller size needle, and then I went ahead and increased and started knitting. And instead of doing it on the needle size called for, I am doing these ones on 2.75s. Yeah, 2.75 needles. And I'm using double pointed needles because I don't like tiny circulars, and I don't like doing color work small circumference magic loop, because then you end up getting like a gap where your float runs, and no matter how hard I try, it never ends up being quite right. Like I said, I did cast on less stitches. It's sitting very close to my wrist, so I am contemplating ripping this out and redoing it. Which upon retrospect might be a better idea right now, because I don't remember. Well, I can count how many I casted on, that's fine, but we'll see. This is just going in a little timeout. I powered through these 2 mittens, And it was at the time when I was having a bit of a rough mental health day, that I finished the second mitten, and then I immediately cast this on, and then I was just kind of feeling a little bit burnt. So this is getting set aside. Very excited to pick it up again, but just not quite yet. So those are my Burnham mittens and my Carlisle mittens. Carlisle is by Jared Flood. The Burnham mittens are by somebody else. They were both done for the release of the Brooklyn Tweed Loft, so like years ago, but they're both very, very well written patterns. So how do we feel about a failed whip? I posted a few week ago on my Instagram that I was working on a Stardust hat, and the Stardust hat, it's a very well written pattern, but I wanted a non-superwash double brim hat. And so I got from Sonder Yarn Co. This is the Sunday Morning 4-ply in the colorway Ritual, which is a really beautiful deep purple. And I went ahead and held it double to get a DK weight. Everybody says, oh, you can hold fingering double to get a DK weight. I think it leans more worsted, personally. And I'm sure it depends on the fingering weight, and I'm sure it depends on your gauge and your needles and your knitting and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I knit 80% of the hat and I hated it. And you know what? I wonder, so I haven't ripped out the entire brim, but because I held it double, I'm like, I would like to single this out again, but I don't know if I have it in me right now, because it'd mean that I'd need to just wind it separately. So it'll be fine, because what I'll do is I will put one on my ball winder and I'll put one on my thumb and figure it out. But it's just time consuming. So I was holding it with the purple, held double, and then I was also using this, the Hill and Down fingering from Luddite Yarns double, which maybe this was the culprit, that because this is so lofty, especially once you block it, it fills up. There we go. It fills up so fluffy, that yeah, it wasn't feeling the way that I wanted. So I just ripped it out, and this is in timeout, and maybe I will just rip it out and make a fingering weight hat. I am kind of doing a deep dive into these old Atig patterns, which we're going to get into in a second, but the Bothy hat was one of them. That was the 2x2 rib hat. That's intended to have a folded brim, and you just knit a big long tube and then do some beautiful decreases. Look at those decreases. They are stunning. So maybe there's another hat, and it's done in the same kind of way as the Musselburgh, and I'm forgetting the name. Maybe it's the Farnham hat or something along those lines, but same way that you do the Musselburgh, where you start up here and you increase, you get your gauge, and then you knit down, following the numbers for your gauge. So you can do it with any yarn, etc., etc., any yarn, any gauge. So maybe I'll do that with the Sonder yarn, but I do also have a very bougie skein of Kivute. And it's not 100% Kivute. As you can see, it is 60% Kivute, 30% cashmere, and 10% silk. I will not tell you how much this yarn cost, but Kivute is known for being the warmest fiber in the world. And I really would love to make a bougie toque out of this. And I don't know, so it's very, very fine. It is, this skein is 58 grams, and it is 437 yards. So definitely lace weight. I think I might hold it double, so long as I would have enough yardage, which I can't see why I wouldn't. Depends on how slouchy I want it, or if I wanted something that I can then fold up. Yeah, I don't know. This is sitting on, so maybe I do a test run with the Sonder. And then I pull this out. It's so soft. It's incredible. This is from a company run out of Nisku, Alberta, which is pretty close to Leduc, which is close to Edmonton if you've ever been there. I also got this at the Gathering Threads Festival, and I do not remember the owner's name off the top of my head. I want to say Erin, but that is not correct. She was delightful. And actually something else that she had, oh, I'm going to make a fool out of myself trying to look for it. She also sells these. And she calls them nature's hand warmers, traditionally used by the Inuit people. And so it is 100% Kivyut fiber. And what I loved at her booth is that she just had, she literally just had tongs with like this. And she was like, just hold it in your hands. She'd like put it in your hands, and I can't tell you how fluffy it is. And like, you just, in seconds, you start to feel the warmth. And it's incredible. So I've got 2 bags. I've got one for me, one for Jeffrey. I think it was like 2 for $35, which, you know, I think it's like maybe 5 grams of Kivyut fiber. Does it say on here? Yeah, it says approximately 4 grams. So it's also known for being not just the warmest fiber in the world, but the most expensive. And you can see here, just like, it's so gorgeous. So anyways, I'm gonna stop messing around with this, but that's something that I need to remember to put in Mittens this year. So yeah, that was the failed Stardust hat. No fault of the pattern. Kaylee Parent Designs. That sounds about right. Pattern's beautiful. Brittany from Crutz Fibers has knit it multiple times. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's stunning. I think I just need to use the correct yarn. She has a DK weight, and then I think it's a Surrey held double, which I think would be stunning, but is not the same as a fingering held double and a fingering held double. So I will keep that in mind, and I will put that back in my queue for another time. So we talked about 3 Oslo hats, a Bothy hat, the other child. So brother's friend, 2 kids, 2 parents. The other child is getting a hat in this fluorescent orange called Elmer. This is also from Frankie Gray Fibers. And this skein was a nightmare to wind up. I really love Frankie Gray Fibers for, you get indie dyed yarn for a more affordable price, but I have consistently had trouble winding up their skeins. And I don't know if it's their dyeing process. I don't know if it's that they need to, if it would help if they put more figure 8 ties on, if they're already doing that lots and it just is the nature of how it is. I don't know, but this ended up, like, I've got 3 balls of it because the 100 grand skein was so tangled. And usually I'm really good with detangling skeins, but this was not happening. So this is going to be the other Bothy hat. So I'm just saving that for last. And we'll see how that goes. So to be continued on the Bothy hat. I have one more whip. One more whip. And then one soon to be whip. So let's get into the whip. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've been seeing a lot of this one. And it's going to show up terribly because of the light. Megan. So... or maybe it's going to show up really well because of the light. This is my Moby sweater by Petite Knit. And look at how much I have done. I have no idea how much I had done on my last episode. I really should go and look. But yeah, I am very, very pleased. We've got an entire sleeve. I powered through this sleeve last night. I was actually yesterday. And then I went to Pilates this morning and I was so tired, or like I was so sore. I was like, I really need to not just sit and knit for hours on end, but that's just all I wanted to do. So yes, this is my sweater, or the Moby sweater by Petite Knit. You're going to notice it's very, very long. You're going to notice the sleeve is very long. I've hinted in a few of my Instagram posts why that is. but I'm not going to stay on here for a little bit longer. But it's just oversized and cozy. And it's not really oversized right now because it hasn't been blocked. But I'm very excited about blocking it and getting a little bit more widthwise and really stretching out those cables and the lattice work. So in this artificial light, you can really see this and this. So I don't know if you saw my last episode, but on my last episode, I talked about dye lots with the yarn that I'm using for this sweater is Durare Natura Gilead. And this is in the colorway Fusain. So Gilead, that's my colorway. That's how much I paid for it. And this yarn I was going to use for something else. So I had 2 skeins of one colorway or of one dye lot and 4 skeins of another. And that was a mistake. And if you watched in my last episode for Jeffrey's Guernsey wrap by Jared Flood, the same thing happened. I had 1 skein of one colorway or one dye lot and then 2 skeins of another dye lot, and the line is very evident. So same thing here, and there I could see that there was a difference in the dye lot. It never looks as drastic in the skein as it does when it's knitted up. So what I did was once I had joined the body in the round, I was like, oh, well, I'll just start fading in these other 2 skeins on the body. Nobody's going to notice. And then this happened. I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. So I went back to the solid, like the one that I had 4 dye lots of, or 4 balls of, the dye lot that I have 4 balls of. And I went ahead and just continued that way. But I don't care. It's a hand knit sweater. It can look hand knit. That's okay. So yeah, it's a pretty drastic line in the middle, but whatever. So what I did is I knit the rest of the body and the hem, which is a very long sweater. The rest of the body, it goes down like this one is like, I'm really happy with the length of this one. This one's like mid butt cheek. This one's like bottom butt cheek. It's real good. And then using that same dye lot, I went ahead and picked up for the collar. And then what I did was I measured it. I had 32 grams left. And so I went ahead and I split it into 2 16-gram balls. And I started alternating in the sleeve. And so when I picked up, please, pretty please, more light required. No shit. So my phone just told me, more light required. Yes, it is. We're doing our best, okay? See, if I turn on the big light, this is what happens. We don't like that. So we're just gonna be soft and romantic tonight. Tonight it's 5:20. So down here, I just went ahead and did every other round because that's really easy to do. In the round for me, when I get to, I don't do helical knitting. When I get to the front, or like when I get to my beginning of round, I leave the yarn that I'm using to the front, on my side of the work, and then I work the round with the next one, and then I leave that one to the front. And it creates no ladder on the inside, no pulling, and then you don't need to kind of faff around with helical knitting. So I did every other row here in the same dye lot as this and faded in the new dye lot, which is clearly a little bit lighter, and then I worked the rest of the arm in the new dye lot. And then with the second 16-gram ball, I went ahead and did the same thing on this arm. And I've just gotten, and actually I put a stitch marker in here. Oh, it's on the back side. Not that you need a stitch marker to be able to see it, but put a little stitch marker here so that you could see where I was when I ran out of the first dye lot and went into the second dye lot. So yeah, I'm at the point where I'm on to the second dye lot on the second sleeve. I did that just this afternoon when I was off from work. And this is how much I have left of my skein. So we'll see if that's enough to do an entire sleeve. Let me see. I've got a scale right here. I'm guessing it's about 60 grams. 57 grams. I think we can make it work, because I do also have, was a swatch that I did for the Andrea Mowry zigzag pattern that I didn't actually end up knitting, but that's what I was originally going to use it for. So I've got, you know, a few more grams here if I need to. I am not beyond unraveling a swatch. And I don't have any other swatches from this pattern because I swatched in a different colorway of Gilead. So yeah, this is where we're at, and I hope to be done this sweater in the next few days. That's why I haven't touched those mittens. I just, you know, I've been working on the hats, but just when I need stockinette knitting, and then I've just been powering through on this because I really, really, really want to get this done. I have no idea when I cast it on. I was at that weird funky color line on October 18th. And then I spent about a week doing mittens and a hat that I frogged and some other hats, and then came back to this. So I want to say like last week I made the decision. I was like, I just need to get on this body, otherwise it's never going to happen. And then sleeves are always fast for me. Like, I don't know what people are talking about when it comes to Sleeve Island, because I just sit down and power knit the shit out of them. So that's my Moby sweater. It's been lovely. The pattern calls for a 4mm needle. I'm knitting it on a 4.5mm needle. I'm pretty smack dab on gauge. When I did a steam block of the upper part and double checked. I also did a steam block of like just the back. No, I did a full wet block of just the back panel before I added on the front panel, and was smack dab on gauge. So I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, very, very pleased with it. We'll be even more pleased when it is done. So very excited for that, and wish me luck, and follow me on Instagram if you want more day-to-day progress on the Moby sweater. Yeah, it's been a really good pattern, really easy to follow. One thing I will say is about the petite knit is she always references these video tutorials that she does. Oh, I'm storing this in my Knitter's Caddy by Hohi Locatelli, or Hohi & Co. Partnership with Grocery Girls. It's a very expensive bag. The value is there because of the beautiful materials. I don't know if the value means as much to me. That's all I'm going to say. I don't mean to stir up tea. It was a bit of an impulse purchase, and Canadian, it ended up costing like over $300 after shipping and duties. It's great. They're fabulous bags, beautifully made, 100% leather, like full grain leather. It's gorgeous. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how much more use I get out of it, right? How much I'm reaching for this compared to my other knitting project bags. So yes, Moby sweater to be continued in an FO on my next episode. Je te promets. I promise you. There's one more project I want to talk to you about, and it is a soon-to-be whip, because it is a commission from one of my lovely colleagues. He's about he's Jeffrey's age, and he's got a wife and a baby, and his wife just had a baby this week. So, well, a wife and a 2-year-old, and his wife just had another baby this week. So he texted me in the evening a few weeks ago and said, hey, would you consider doing a commission? And he sent me a picture of a 1x1 rib, essentially like Hudson's Bay hat. So I said, yeah, totally. So I'm going to use the Porty hat by Isolde Teague, which is wonderful because you cast on from the crown, and then you just knit what you need. So I think that's going to work out really, really well for planning out my stripes, as well as being flexible sizing wise for him and his wife, and then also for his kids to grow into. So he asked for, you know, like 2 adult toques, like an extra large toque, you know, like an adult medium toque, and then a toddler toque and a newborn toque. And I'm super duper happy to make those. I'm hoping, I think I'll have enough yarn to also do like a second toddler toque, so that, or like a child size toque, so that they can kind of grow into them. So I'm using Cascade 220, which I love this yarn, and I love this yarn as a really good 100% wool that doesn't need to be super babied. So white is going to be my main color, and it is very white. I was hoping for a little bit more off-white, but that's okay. That the inspiration hat picture that he sent me was this, and his only question with the wool is, he's like, is it gonna get like fuzzy? Because I'm pretty sure the Hudson Bay hat that he took a picture of, like it's a hat that he loves or his wife loves, but it's like very, very fuzzy. I'm sure it was 100% acrylic. So, so yeah, main white. I've got 3 balls of this, so 300 grams. That should be lots, but we'll see. And then here are my contrast colors. Here are my contrast colors. I don't remember what any of them are called. It's black. And then this is bottle green, the top one. It's not heathered at all, which I really liked. I do actually, I've got a heathered dark green from Cascade right here, which is gorgeous. I love their heathered colors, but I wanted a solid green situation. So solid black, solid green, solid yellow, and maybe this is called marigolds. And then a nice solid rich red. So if you're not in Canada, I think you even, if you're not in Canada, like I think the Hudson Bay stripes are pretty commonplace. So I'm pretty sure the order is green, black, yellow, and red. Red and yellow. I'm not sure about the red and the yellow order, but it's super, super Canadian, super classic. So, and I'm going to make little, I don't know. I'm going to make little pom-poms for the kids' toques, and then I'm hoping to buy a pom-pom for the adult toques, and that'll just be like my little Christmas gift to him. So my formula for commissions, which by no means covers the labor, is yarn, whatever the yarn cost is, times 2. So the yarn cost $98, so we settled on $200 total for the 4 hats. So I buy the yarn, and he'll just go ahead and pay me $200 when everything is said and done. And then that way I don't feel gross, like if, you know, keeping the leftovers of the yarn and stuff like that, like that's okay to me. That feels good to me. So yeah, cost of yarn times 2. That's what I feel good about. And I only accept commissions on like really exceptional circumstances. And he's a really good colleague. I call him, he's my work brother. He's a bit of a shithead. He changes my background all the time to goofy pictures of himself. But he's really, really, really good guy. So yeah, I'm very excited about those Hudson Bay hats. Let me just stack all of the yarns there. Oh, this is going to be a good thumbnail. If only the lighting were better. So Hudson Bay hats, I'm going to get cracking on those. He wants them for Christmas. That will be no problemo. Just some nice ribbed hats. The hats that I'm making for my brother's family, there's no deadline on those. So these are going to kind of get set aside now that I have this yarn, because this yarn came in on Monday. But I had Symphony on Monday and blah, 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 blah. So the only other thing to kind of go along with that is acquisitions. I don't typically share acquisitions a lot, but I will share with you that I did, because I was already placing an order for Cascade 220, and I got this from Gulp House of Yarn in Cambridge, Ontario, I think. And I love Cascade 220. It's a fantastic wool, and it's $14 for 100 grams. It's 100% wool. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful worsted weight. So what I did was I just got some extra skeins as well. This is one of my favorite colorways of Cascade 220. It is called Aspen Heather, and it's this beautiful grayish color. So I got more than a sweater quantity. I think I got 8 skeins, which I'm totally fine with. And then the same like nice flat rich green, I got some skeins of that to make a sweater with. They're just very, very good sweater yarns, very affordable, but I've never made a sweater out of it. I've made lots of hats out of it, some mittens out of it, but I think it holds up relatively well for a non-superwash 100% Peruvian Highland wool. It's nice it's not merino. I don't know how I'm feeling about merino these days. Love it for my socks. I love it when you just need something basic and superwash, but aside from that. Anywho, I think that's it. We're at an hour and 10 minutes. And only the first 20 minutes was me jabbering on about life. And Jeffrey's been doing such a good job being nice and quiet upstairs. So I should go and give him a hug and a kiss and give our kitties some snuggles. And I will see you again soon. I think I'm feeling really good about podcasting. I'm going to say I will see you again before Christmas. But it might, maybe in a few weeks. We'll see. No promises. If you want to check on me, send me a message on Instagram. I'm really terrible about reading the comments, anything after a week. I get this like weird anxiety about replying to comments and, oh, what if I reply the wrong thing and blah, 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 blah. Knitting a good yarn. Jackie, no, I should just stop. Jackie and Carmen from Knitting a Good Yarn. They just talked about that on their most recent episode because they had lots of comments. And they said, yeah, sometimes after you've waited for so long, and they're both psychologists or psychiatrists or something along those lines. So I feel okay about it. We don't need to be perfect. We women don't need to be perfect. We're already incredible, amazing humans. So that's enough. Okay. I'm sorry for the lighting. Thank you for hanging with me. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, evening, week, month, rest of 2023 if I don't see you again before Christmas, which I'll see you, but you might not see me. Like and subscribe if you liked this kind of slightly chaotic format of a podcast. And I will see you the next time. Take care of each other. Bye.